We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day's going well. It is Thursday, and Thursday is often the case. We have Old Soul with us today, and this show's perfectly timed at this point because of what happened yesterday with Donald Trump in his interview in the National Association of Black Journalists that didn't go well, to say the least. And as I was watching the clips on that, I said, oh, Old Soul's going to be fired up. She's going to be the exact right person to talk to about that. She's going to have some serious insights. Old Soul, welcome to the show again, as always. And I think you said before we went on that you watched the interview.
Yeah, I watched it live. BTC was like doing it live. So, and the Wild Child, she loves watching his videos. So she came in the office and she was watching it with me, and she jaw dropped. She was just like, it's really hard for her, because she's white. She's from like a little small town in Texas. And she hasn't been exposed to it, but being around us and seeing certain things and then seeing something like that, she just keeps like imagining like me or my daughter, like she's taking it personally, like he's attacking us or, something like that. And it's very, very hard for her.
Well,
very hard.
It's got to be an incredible learning experience for her, because I've said this about white people in this country. There were periods of time when it wasn't quite as out there, the racism as it is now. And white people would say, well, I think we've got racism handled pretty well. I think it's all really pretty good. Well, that's easy enough coming from a white person. What we see and what we experience is far different than what people of color experience. So this has got to be an eye-opening experience for her to see this and then have something invested in people she cares about being hurt by this type of stuff. This has got to be a great education for her.
Yes, it's not easy. It's very difficult. Like, she's just in tears. I sent you a screenshot of the video that she was watching, and she was like, why is this available on YouTube? Why can people like see this? And they were making like monkey noises in the video. Think of any Black woman stereotype. They were pretending to be like ghetto, hey girl. There's like the whole like hour and so video is of them doing that. And then they had Kamala Harris. They darkened her skin. They put a blunt in her mouth and like gold chains around her neck. And it's difficult, but I think sometimes you're just kind of like used to it. And then everybody was bracing themselves because we knew the closer to the election, the more it's going to ramp up.
Right.
And it's not easy for us, but it's especially difficult for her because she was like, I don't understand this. I don't get this. And then she'll say like, you guys are like looking after me and you're protecting me. And then like white people did the exact opposite. Right. And she's like, so why do they think that you guys are all bad and we're all good? Like that doesn't compute to her. And, I'm going to help her navigate it as best that I can. But, you just can't prepare somebody for that. Our children learn young. Right. It's like you potty train your child. Our children, we teach them like, hey, when you go outside, this is how you move in the world. So they learn it from an early age. It's not like they wake up one day and they're seeing this stuff. But for her, she's like waking up and she's seeing it, but she's 17. So she didn't grow up knowing that. Right. So it's not easy for her.
Even if there was racism going on in her small town, she wouldn't have realized it because she's a white girl. And that's the problem is, it's easy for white people to say, oh, racism's not so bad. We have no fucking clue. We have no business saying that or suggesting it. Now, no doubt everybody's heard about this shit show, this interview that Donald Trump did with the National Association of Black Journalists. You said you watched it. I only watched clips. That's all I could watch without throwing up in my mouth. But maybe you can, for the folks who hadn't seen it or haven't seen the clips, maybe you can tell us what happened in that interview. It was crazy.
Donald Trump showed his true colors. I know like the Republican Party previously was mask off. I mean, like dog whistles.
Right.
But now they're just completely masked off about it. He were calling them mean, nasty, rude. The stuff that he said about Kamala Harris was insane. He went back to the whole birtherism. And then as he was doing that, Laura Loomer was like posting Kamala Harris's birth certificate. So they dug that back up out of the closet again. He went into this whole we like killing babies type stuff. Like it was just unhinged, off the hook, insane. But we knew that's what it was going to be. And I was telling her last night I wasn't going to watch it because we saw Roland Martin talking about it, and him and some of the other journalists, they were like, hey, we're not doing a panel this year because they do it every year. We're not
Right.
doing it this year because we don't think Donald Trump deserves to be there. Not after the way he's treated us, not after the pandering, the sneakers. I got a mug shot now, so Black people won't like me, like the whole thing. But it's this back and forth in my community right now. I'm on the side of it was hard to watch and it shouldn't have happened. However, there's a lot of people that don't get to see Trump full mask off and his whole racism.
Right.
And I do think that people needed to see that. But at the same time, like you're platforming that person. So it's like a back and forth. Nobody expected it to go well. The journalist that didn't show up, that was like protesting against it, I get it. And I give the woman like full credit for sitting up there and doing it.
Yeah.
With the exception of Harris, because she
Harrison
carried water
Faulkner.
for Trump every night. Yeah, we
Yeah.
already knew how she was going to be.
Yeah.
But even she was surprised. There were certain parts where she was like, oh, wow. Ooh, like she didn't know how to react to that. But you've been around him. You know who this person is. I think that she was surprised that the behind the scenes private Trump actually like showed up in public.
Right.
And it caught her off guard. That's how unhinged he was.
Well, Harrison
It's just,
Faulkner was a local newscaster in Minneapolis for a time. I never thought much of her then, and then when she went off to Fox News and went off the rails, I've been disgusted by her for the most part. Now, I will say this: one of the moderators of the interview, a woman, but her last name is Scott.
Scott, yeah.
Yeah, she kind of set the tone for the interview. And it's going to sound like I'm making a criticism, but wait till I finish. She basically said, let's look at the elephant in the room. You
Mhm.
said this, you did that, you said this, you did that, and really set the tone, put Donald Trump back on his heels, asking him to answer for the things he said and he did. Now, some people might complain about that. I, I've always said if people would have done that in 2015, we would have never had a Donald Trump presidency. Make him accountable for the shit he says and does. At that moment when he was asked that question, you could see I know the facial expressions of a narcissist when they get mad. They're trying to control themselves. It's impossible for them to do that. And they get mad and they start spewing shit. The first thing he said was, I've never had an introduction that was so rude. So we knew where this was going to go. The woman did the right thing. Now, it might have ended up being a shit show, but I think her goal wasn't to get answers. I think it was to expose him for what he is. And
Yeah.
that's what she did. She did a hell of a job doing that.
I think that they're not used to journalism in America anymore.
No.
But you can see, it's crazy, but I do watch Russian TV and I see like different things that they say and they do. But you can see when, like, I think it was like a few weeks ago, Marjorie Taylor Greene sat down with an Australian journalist and she was asking her questions, but she was giving pushback because she doesn't want some blanket answer or she doesn't want you to skirt around a question and not ask the question. So she was like being a journalist, asking questions, giving pushback. And Marjorie Taylor Greene just snapped. And she was like, what are you? You're a Democrat plant? Are you working for the Democrats? What is this? Like, she could not handle being asked questions. And people don't understand that Trump and MAGA, they're all sheltered. No one asked them questions. And what Scott was doing was she was asking him the questions that we all want to know. And Trump is being sheltered even more so than normally just because he is unhinged. And so he wasn't used to being outside of that bubble. Even Laura Ingraham, she was trying so hard to like feed him the information and get him to say what she needed him to say, and he couldn't do it.
Right.
So if he can't handle Laura Ingraham, he can't handle a panel of 3 Black women, well, 2.5, and think that he's going to be okay with that. It's not going to work well. We knew it wasn't going to go well unless you pander to him. And they just were not willing to do that. So it wasn't a bad thing. Nobody is looking at her as doing a bad job. They just didn't want him to be platformed.
Right.
But I feel like he should have been platformed because people need to see that before they cast their vote.
Well, and that's exactly right. You know, we see what we see on Fox, we see what we see on NBC, and nobody gets the same story. This was an opportunity for everybody to see what the fact is and what the truth
Yeah.
is. Now, he started out with something, and I'm curious as your take on it. He and all the other Republicans are trying to deny that Kamala Harris is Black. For some reason, they're trying to deny that. She is of
Yeah.
Jamaican descent. Most people from Jamaica are from East or West Africa. So she is certainly Black. She certainly is American, but she also happens to be South Asian, Indian. I think it's Indian, but South
She's
Asian.
biracial.
She's
Mhm.
biracial. Now, Donald Trump is trying to make some hay out of the fact that she's not really Black, even though she went to an HBCU and she's been, he was part of the oldest Black sorority in the
Mhm.
history of the country. I don't know
Still
what he
Howard.
I don't know what he's trying to accomplish there. Is he so desperate to grab onto anything? He's just pulling this out of his ass. I mean, even if she wasn't Black, what difference does that make?
No, that's not what he's doing. It's so funny because we see stuff so differently.
Yeah.
We see what he's doing. He's trying to pit different races against each other, different people against each other, different cultures against each other. So that's why he says immigrants are taking Black jobs.
He
And he
said it
keeps
again.
saying,
He
yeah,
said
he's
it
like,
again.
when immigrants come here, like, you guys are not going to be working because they're going to take all the Black jobs. So what he wants to do is to get Black people and immigrants like beefing with each other. He does the same thing with Kamala Harris. He's trying to tell us that she's faking the funk. Basically, she's pretending to be Black, but she's not really Black. She never claimed that she was Black. She never said that. She's only saying that now because she's running for president. So he wants us to sit there and call her fake and phony and act like Kamala Harris never said that she was Black. And the problem with that is we know better. And he doesn't understand when he gives speeches and rallies in front of his base, they clap and cheer at everything he says. It doesn't have to make sense. But when you get around people who are not in that cult and you're trying to tell them bull crap, they're going to look at you like you're trying to feed them bull crap and they're not going to go for it. So he is trying to pit, or he's trying to, take away some of her Black votes. That's what he's trying to do by getting us upset at her, riled at her. I don't know if you see it, but him, MAGA, the right wing, they're all going with this narrative that when she had her rally in Texas, she changed her voice and her accent to try to sound Black. I don't know if you see that or not, but that's a talking point that they have right now. And it's kind of weird because they act like we've never heard Kamala Harris speak before. like she just went to Texas, all of a sudden her accent changed. That's not what happened. But he is trying to tell us that. He's trying to make us think that. And it's insulting for you to think that we are that low of an IQ, where you could just tell us any and everything and we're just going to go along with it. But he's just basically trying to take away some of her Black votes, and he's trying to pit us against immigrants, and it's not working. And so that's why he's becoming unhinged. Like, why aren't they mad at each other yet? Why aren't Black people talking crap about Kamala yet? He is really upset that it's not working.
Right. Well, and the fact of the matter is, if Donald Trump hopes to win or even come close in the presidency, he needs Black votes. And it's my contention here, after some of what we've seen, including this interview, he's done nothing but lost Black votes, maybe opened the eyes of some Black people that were thinking about voting for him. This is a bridge too far. You can't just go into one of our situations, the National Association of Black Journalists, and go in there and spew racist remarks. He also talked about January 6th. Now, I will say about the moderators of this and the things I've seen, that was one of the first times I've seen true journalism in a long time.
Yeah.
in journalism, what you do is you ask somebody a question. And if they don't answer the question, you ask them again. And
Yeah.
you ask them again. You force them to answer the question. And that's what they did. One of the moderators asked him, do you intend to pardon the insurrectionist who injured and killed police officers? Now, I don't know if he wasn't listening or was just so angry he couldn't even deflect it. He said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pardon these violent insurrectionists. How do you suppose that's helping him with independents or normal minded Republicans? I don't think it is.
Back to blue.
Yeah.
Um, it was so weird, but at the same time, I think he underestimated because he think, oh, these are just three Black women. And he has absolutely no idea how difficult it is to sit up there with an NABJ. You're talking about people like Roland Martin. They are not, they will go on CNN or Fox in a dashiki and an afro. These people are going to come prepared. They got their facts and they're going to call you out. But he thinks so little of us that he underestimated the questions and he underestimated his ability to be able to squirm out of the situation that he put himself in. And then a lot of, from what we were seeing and what we were saying is you can tell he's desperate because Donald Trump has been invited 3 times in the past, 3 years in a row when he was president, he was invited to the panel. And he never went. He always declined. Hey, I ain't going. There's too many Black folks for me. But this year he went. And so that basically just says, oh, he's desperate. He know Black people not feeling him right now. So he's going to go and he is going to try to trick us into voting for him, I guess.
Yeah.
And he underestimated he underestimated those women for sure.
It was one of the last questions that was asked. He was asked by one of the moderators if he'd be willing to take a cognitive test. And what he said was, yeah, I'll take one if Kamala Harris takes one. I'm thinking, did you forget that's not Joe Biden? That's Kamala. She's clearly pretty clear and present. I don't think her cognitive abilities are in question. And then he proceeds to say, well, she didn't pass the bar. Well, she was a prosecutor and she was the attorney general of the state of California. She passed some fucking test that allows her to do that. He just pulls shit out of his ass and says it in hopes that people will believe it, even though it's so easily proven he's wrong.
If you listen to his other rallies that he's been doing lately, he's actually been saying that at his rallies. So what he was saying at the panel were things that he was saying at his rallies.
Right.
And it plays good to his base because when he says she failed the bar exam, they start booing and all this stuff. It never crossed their mind, or maybe they just don't care, that he is saying that she used to be a prosecutor. She used to be the DA. She was in the Senate on the Judiciary Committee. Right. And he is going to sit here and say she never passed the bar.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
The crowd at his rallies, they eat that up. They're like, yeah, she's stupid. They're booing and doing all of this stuff. But when you take him outside of that bubble and he says that, anybody, you don't even have to be Black to understand, you're not going to be a DA of a state like California and you have absolutely no bar license at all. You just went to school, said, hey, all right, I'm good. And you know what I mean? Like, it don't work like that.
Right.
But everything he said was old material that he's used at his previous rallies. And I think that's part of the reason why they were so prepared. All you have to do is just sit there and watch 1, maybe 2 rallies, and you already know what he's going to say because he doesn't switch up. There's no substance there. And anything that he does say consistent, he's memorized it.
Right.
And that's the only thing he knows. Like, I think right now they've told him, focus on immigration. That's it. That's all. Don't say anything else. It's just immigration. That's it. And so everything comes back to immigration because there's no other platform. And the only reason he has that platform is because he killed the bipartisan border deal. That's it.
Right. Right. He doesn't have anything to argue about. I mean, And they can tell him not to do any number of things, but he's still going to fucking do it, especially if he feels trapped. He's going to go back to the golden oldies and pull out shit that's absolutely ridiculous. Now, when we first talked about the possibility of Kamala Harris being the candidate, and when she became the candidate or the nominee, um, I know you were concerned about the onslaught of racism that was going to be thrown around. And clearly you were right about that. How are you feeling about that now? What are you expecting?
I expect for it to get worse
I do too.
because right after he did that, I don't know if a lot of people know or if they've seen it yet, but he hopped on a plane and he went to Pennsylvania. And if you thought the panel was bad, that rally was like 10 times worse. Alina Habba got on the stage and the stuff that she said was vile, racist. The I don't guess the anchors from the Bright Side broadcast, the stuff that they were saying was vile, racist, and then he was on stage, same thing. And then you have Fox running cover for him as well. So it's just kind of like he set the tone, and they've all just fell in line just that quickly. So for anybody to think that it's going to get tampered down or it won't be as bad or he can't get worse or it won't get worse, it will.
Now,
It's going to get way worse.
I know it's hard to listen to, and you're a sensitive woman, and they will say some vile shit. But
Yeah.
is there any pleasure you take in it, knowing that none of it is landing? All of it is working against Donald Trump. Every time he opens his mouth, he loses support and puts him that much farther away from winning the presidency. I've said it before, let Donald Trump talk, he will sink himself. And yesterday was a perfect illustration of that. In spite of the things you'll have to hear as a black woman and for your community, other black people around the country, it's going to be hard to hear this shit. But is there any silver lining knowing that it's killing Donald Trump every time he does it?
It's a double-edged sword because sometimes I'll get upset, I'll have to walk away, or I might get angry and have to walk away because it's difficult to hear it, especially as aggressive as they are about it. It's not
Yeah.
easy. But you do understand that this is the path forward. And I think what helps me, and my uncle was actually on speakerphone with myself and the wild child. And he was just saying, like, yeah, this is rough. Like, we know what that feels like because we used to have to march back in the day too, because she went and did a counter protest for JD Vance that was in Henderson yesterday.
Right.
And it was difficult for her to just kind of be around those type of people. And for us, it'll keep you going when you realize what they had to go through before. You don't want to go through that again. And then you understand as bad as it is right now, it's like 10 times worse back then. So you just kind of have to grit, bear it, and get through it. And then just kind of like keep pushing and do everything you can to make sure he doesn't get back in there.
Who's the
But
one
it's not
that
easy. It
who,
sucks real
who's the
bad.
one that has the quote, keep your eyes on the prize? What did that come from again? Do you remember? I know it, and I should know who said it. But my
I
point
should.
my point of that is somebody will send me an email and say, "Oh, you dumb fuck, that was this." Um, um, but what I mean by keeping your eye on the prize, if he continues to implode and destroy himself,
Yeah.
and as tough as it might be to go through that between now and November 5th, at least we know what the end result is going to be. We're going to get a very strong, very articulate, very competent um, black woman, South Asian woman. It doesn't really make a difference what color she is. I'm just happy that we're going to have a woman in there. Finally, men have fucked this up enough. So it's nice to have a woman in there. But at least in the end, after going through all this bullshit, we've gone through 8 years, and now the bullshit we'll have to go through up until November. In the end, it's going to get a lot better because um, she's going to be a great president. She's going to follow a lot of what Joe Biden has wanted to do in helping the middle class, and she's going to be highly successful. And Donald Trump is going to be a miserable fucking failure someplace.
Yeah. I think she has kind of like this fresh air about
Right.
her. Um, my daughter, she's like really, really good at like body languages. She pick up on stuff, and she's been teaching the wild child like, different little things. And one of the things, my daughter, when she's like paying attention to me, I don't even notice it until she says something. With the wild child, she would just like look at you like she'll just stare you down. But she was staring at me the other day on the sofa, and I'm like, stop, like it's driving me, stop doing that. And she was like, well, when Biden used to speak, you used to hold your breath all the time. You don't do that with Kamala.
No.
And I had to think about that for a second, and it's true because it kind of felt like anytime we watched Joe Biden speak, we knew he was going to make a gaffe. We knew he was going to mess up a word. And we already knew that that next day, or even like soon as the speech ends, okay, we got to be online. We got to be doing this and that. So we need to cover for this. We need to keep pointing out the policies. Like we knew that we had to make up for that. And then also the president sets the tone as well. And so his tone was, we're not going to go back and forth with them. We're just going to run on policy. And so that was kind of like holding a lot of us back. But at the same time, just having to constantly defend him, it was exhausting, and you didn't want him to mess up like that.
Right.
So I didn't realize it until she said it, that part of it is now that Kamala, she set a different tone. Like,
Right.
yeah, you can go back and forth with them just as long as you don't lose the message along the way. In addition to that, when we're watching, we're not waiting for her to make a mistake. Like you're watching, like, well, she fits to get them real good. You know what I mean? So you're looking forward to it. So it's
Right.
not that he was bad. It's just that we're constantly like defending him all the time. So it feels good to be on the offense for once.
Right.
And I think
Exactly.
that's the difference there. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And I've said this about Joe Biden too. Joe's old and he's slow, but even as a young man, he's not a good
Yeah.
matchup for the Donald Trump type. Donald Trump's just a fucking steamroller, whether he's lying or not. And Joe
Yeah.
Biden's more laid back defensive guy. He's going to play defense. And you can't do that with this type of guy. You need somebody
Right.
strong who's going to slap the taste out of their mouth. And Kamala is just the person to do this. I watched Kamala back in 2015. And to be
Mm-hmm.
honest with you, back in 2015, of the candidates, I like Kamala the best because she seemed the toughest, the most
Yeah.
aggressive. We saw her interview Supreme Court justice nominees and be really tough on Brett Kavanaugh and stuff like that. But I will tell you this, I knew she was strong as a speaker,
Mm-hmm.
but she's even a better orator than I thought she would be. She's good at this. And one of the reasons she's good at this is because she has that one thing that you absolutely need to succeed. And once you get it, you just roll with it. That's fucking confidence.
Oh, yeah.
She is
Yeah.
so confident and she knows she's going the right way. And as long as she keeps that confidence, she will just roll all the way to November 5th.
Yeah. My daughter says, like, when you look at her body language, she's like, hey, she's having fun. And she
Yeah.
was like, she gets this like little smirk. And she was like, I know that that woman is thinking, this is too easy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and she probably is thinking that. Like, she's having fun because it's not like difficult. And then you got to think about it. She's been under Biden and his tutelage for the last 4 years. So this is like a guy that she's invested in him. She loves him and his family, how close they are, and to watch him be dragged through the mud, to watch what they did to Hunter Biden and his granddaughter, just sitting there watching this. If it was me, I would be chomping at the bit. Like, I cannot wait to take all these 4 years of what you've been doing and just let loose. And I think that she feels good that she's able to actually get that out and not have to stand backwards and, watch Biden try to handle it. And I'm pretty sure she knew like he needs to be stronger, but it wasn't like her place to tell him how to
Right.
govern.
Right.
Basically, she's his backup. So I think that all that she had in, but she's not coming out like in a mean, angry type of way. She's coming out very methodical. And it's just like the way that she set him up is just like really, really good. I like to watch her do that.
Yeah. I've said this before too. We've all been waiting for that time when there would be a woman or a black woman that could be elected president. And everybody thought that was going to be a tough time. And maybe it would have been a tough time up to this point. I think Kamala Harris is coming around at the absolute right time because
Yeah.
we've got a candidate that is trying to marginalize people of color and basically started a war against women.
Yeah.
Kamala is a black woman, and she probably is thinking this is easy, because I'll guarantee you she's never run against a worst candidate. And this
Right.
might be the prime time to do it, because Donald Trump is such a horrible candidate with so much baggage. He's an absolute failure. This is going to be a great turning point for the country, because a black woman will win the election, will be the president, and that changes everything for the future. There's never any question, well, is it time for a black woman? Fucking right, it's time for a black woman, and we got a black woman in office now, and she's kicking ass. So
Yeah.
I think this is kind of a perfect storm coming together now, and it's all timing out and working out just right.
Yeah. And I think if it was anyone other than Trump, it may be a different conversation,
Mm-hmm.
especially if they would have had enough sense to put Nikki Haley at the top of the ticket. It would be a different conversation. But Trump is so vile and he is so overt in his racism and his threats and him trying to pit everybody against each other and stir up all of this chaos.
Right.
And it just makes her look that much better. Like she's already good, but he is so vile, he just pushes her up. You know what I mean? And
And
even when I like canvas now, like their arguments and stuff is just kind of a little less confident as what they used to be. And it's so easy to talk to them and just kind of like flip it around because he has so many examples of what a horrible person he is, that it's a little bit easier talking to low information voters and a couple MAGAs, but not that many of them. And then
yeah,
I think like there was a couple of people who were just religious, and he's trying to pit us against Catholics, Jewish people. Like he's really trying to stir up a lot of chaos to just get people to beef with each other. And I'm so lucky to have the baby that I have. But she was watching his rally, that one that he did when he was like, just vote for me and you'll never have to vote again.
right.
And she kind of had this blank look on her face. And she was like, he keeps doing it. He can't help himself. He keeps doing it. And then I was like, he keeps doing what? And she is like, he refuses to associate with any type of religion. And I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? He's like, I'm Christian. And she was like, no, listen to him. And she was like, he keeps saying, I was talking to the Christians. I was talking to those people. The Christians don't vote. They don't do this. They don't do that. She was like, if he was like a Christian or any person of religion, he would just say, hey, as a religious person or as Christians, we should this, we should that. But he separates himself from them. And she was like, I don't think he can help himself. And I was just like, I never thought about it when I saw that. And so when I was like canvassing and it was somebody who was religious, I was asking them about it because I asked my daughter, like, how do I ask them these questions? And then she said, well, just bring it up. And she's like, they know what it is. It's just that they know something is wrong. They may not be able to like articulate what's wrong, or they may be able to understand why they're feeling a little bit off about that. She was like, as soon as you point it out, it'll click in their mind like, oh yeah, that's what he's doing. And so that kind of helps me out when I'm with Republicans who are like overly religious and stuff. That really does help to say, have you ever noticed that he separates himself from you guys? And then it's a whole different conversation because then it's like, oh, they get it. So I didn't notice that until she noticed it, but
Well,
that point works as well. So how are you
something
going to pit us against Christians when you are doing everything you can to separate yourself from them?
right. Well, I get a lot of people coming in my comments, and I swear to God, people are just always looking for something to worry about. We're on a roll now with Kamala. Everything is going pretty much our way, but still they'll say, yeah, but, and when they said that Donald Trump said, you only have to vote one more time, and then you never have to vote again because we'll fix it.
Yeah.
Um, Now people are saying, "Oh, there's some deep dark strategy. They've got these. They've got these election deniers in the counting the ballots and stuff. They've got something tricky up their sleeve." Now, as
Mhm.
I look at Donald Trump when he says something like that, I don't get that at all. I kind of know
Mhm.
that personality. I understand what they say. They
Yeah.
tend to exaggerate. And what he's really saying is, I'm so good, you don't ever have to worry about it again because I'll fix it perfectly. he's not suggesting that he's going to game the system, because he's not smart enough to comprehend how that would happen. And yes, there are election deniers in various states, but what people have to understand is, first of all, they're not trying to do anything that they haven't already tried to do in 2020. The big difference between 2020 and 2024 is Donald Trump was the president. The Republicans
Mhm.
had power and they still couldn't accomplish it. This time, Joe Biden's in power. The Democrats have some sway in the Senate. You can worry about that shit, but it's not going to happen. Everything that they're going to do, people have already seen, they're paying attention to it, and they're preparing for it. I hate
Yeah.
it when the media, or Rachel Maddow or whoever, says, okay, here's another thing to be scared of. Don't be scared of this, because it's going to be such a devastating loss. They could do fucking whatever they want. They're going to fail.
Yeah. When I was talking, we were at there's like a skateboard park that the Wild Child always goes to. And so I was there, and her friends, they were kind of upset after they saw Rachel Maddow. I was like, it's crazy that kids so young in high school, even junior high school, are paying attention to politics because they're so worried and scared, and they count on us to do the right thing for them. But they were talking about it, and I told them, I was like, well, the first thing you have to notice that those 70 people, those are normally in like rural areas. These are not people in big cities.
Right.
And then if you go based off of what he said then and what he says now, so before it's like, hey, don't worry about the vote. I got this. You don't have to vote or whatever. And now his tone is like, hey, you need to vote. Even if he had thought that they had a way of gaining the system in previously, his tone has shifted to, you don't need to vote. We got this handled. Wink, wink. It switched to, I need you to vote. So whatever plan it was that was in place, something happened there to make him change his verbiage to, yeah, I really do need you to vote. So
Well,
something there isn't going on. And then on top of that, Joe Biden, he may be old, but I mean, look how he just set him up to put Kamala Harris in his place.
right.
He is not slipping on this. And if everybody is talking about it, you best believe Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the DOJ, everybody knows what's going on, and they're looking out for them. In addition to that, it seems like people are very motivated to go out and vote against him, not even if it's not for Kamala, just against him, that if we win in numbers like big enough, there is nothing that they can do anyway.
Right.
So I'm just trying to tell them, like, hey, calm down, focus, and make sure that we do what we have to do. Don't start feeling that doom and gloom. Don't be afraid. We're going to have to face it either way. So November is coming. Whatever happens, happens. And then we're just going to have to deal with it. But
Right.
in the meantime, like, being afraid and just really, like, these children are so stressed out. Like, they are stressed. And I do think for us being adults around people that age that are scared, even if we feel afraid ourselves, like, you can go cry in the shower or something, but don't put that on them, because it doesn't help them at all. It
No,
does not help them.
it doesn't help them, but see, that's the thing that bothers me so much. He goes out and says, don't even bother voting. They immediately focus on that and thinks he's got some deep, dark, secret strategy that he's going to upend this whole thing, and we've got to watch out for it. When 2 weeks prior, he was standing in front of the Christians going, Christians, you got to vote. Just vote. You got to get out and vote. Donald Trump doesn't have a strategy. Donald Trump doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. He just says whatever he can say at that moment. Kamala Harris is kicking his ass. So he's got to appear confident and strong. And that's why he said, you don't even need to vote. We got this thing. We got so many votes. We don't know what to do with it. It had nothing to do with a deep, dark plot. Donald Trump doesn't think that way. He's not smart enough to think that way.
I look at Donald Trump as, like, and I know this is a negative word, but I do look at him as a simpleton. I really do.
He is.
And he is one of those people who tries to emulate intelligence. And I think that there could be conversations going on around him, and maybe people brainstorming, trying to figure out, because they know what's coming. And I think that maybe he's picking up on certain things. He's misinterpreting it. Sometimes he may be cocky about it. Other times he's not. And I honestly think the people around him, and he doesn't have the best people around him, they're very nefarious. And I think that he may be picking up on some of the banter or chatter or whatever it is that's going around him. But as far as Donald Trump himself, he ain't planning nothing. And even if he was planning something, we would get it on an audio or on a video because he keeps there is a fox in that hen house. Because there's so many different leaks that come out of him saying this, of JD Vance saying that. There is somebody on that team that he's sleeping on him, and he has absolutely no idea why he doesn't like be more careful and tailor his conversations to only certain people in private, or maybe tell this group of people one thing, tell another group of people another thing, and as soon as something leaks in the news, you can pinpoint where the snitch is.
Right.
He don't even do that. No. So it's just kind of like he keeps getting on video, on cassette, like he just keeps getting caught up. I think there's conversations. I just don't think he is a part of them. But he wants to act like he knows something. You know what I mean?
Donald Trump's like the guy or gal that you know that hears a big word and immediately puts it in their conversation to make them sound intelligent, or somebody that hears something. And Donald Trump will hear something and he will only take what he likes about it, if it's positive, and then he will spew it as if he knows something about it. And he doesn't. I'll give you an example. In that interview that you watched, they asked him, do you believe that Kamala Harris is a DEI candidate? And what's he say? What did he say? He said,
what's the definition?
What's the definition? And the woman said, diversity, diversity, equity, and inclusivity. It's a spelling bee.
Can you use it in a sentence, please?
So she tells him it's diversity, equity, and inclusivity. He goes, yeah, but define it. She goes, I just fucking did. He has no idea what it means. He can't argue the point. All he knows is that is a trigger or a word that he can use against Kamala Harris. He doesn't even know what it means. He couldn't explain it. He went off on some other tangent, and he just looked absolutely foolish. Donald Trump is not a smart man. He's not playing 3D 3D chess. He's playing 1D or less Candyland, because the motherfucker is dumb. He really is. All you have to do is listen to him. He has enough ability to come up with words or sayings that he's heard over and over again. And that's all he's able to do, is repeat or parrot these words that somebody else told him. And unfortunately, he doesn't know anything about what those things mean. And he's getting exposed for it now, and he doesn't know what to do with it. That's why he gets angry.
Yeah, that was the one part when I figured out that he was kind of lost on the question. Because at first I thought he was just trying to be a smart butt. Like, what do you think it is? Like, tell me, and I can tell you what I think it is. That's where I thought his mind was going. But then when I looked, like, he's really not following the conversation. When it dawned on me, I'm like, it must be going in one ear and out the other, because that's all they say on Fox News, OAN, and the RSV channel. Like, they say it in a loop over and over and over. They said it so much to the point where Mike Johnson had to have a meeting and say, hey, stop saying it.
Right.
But he's hearing people say something. He's agreeing with what they're saying, and he's repeating what they're saying, but he has absolutely no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah.
No idea at all. And I'm like, I don't know how anyone could be that simple. I just have absolutely no idea. And the thing about it is, he has never bothered to learn. And he doesn't even have to learn. He has flunkies around him. It would be so easy for him to say, hey, Joe, they keep saying DEI. What's that? No curiosity at all. He just knows it's bad. And he knows that that's what Republicans are calling Kamala. And that's what he is going to roll with. Ignorant.
One thing I've learned in my long life of 64 years, there are people that don't know anything that are willing to listen and learn. They understand they don't know a lot, so they're listening and learning, and those people are cool. But the people that don't know anything and think they're geniuses, those people are dangerous. And Donald Trump is a perfect example of that. He is a dangerous man because he is so dumb. He will make mistakes at every turn. And unfortunately, we, the people of this country, will pay the price for his mistakes.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of common, a lot of narcissists. And I do think that in order for you to be an elected official, especially when you're that high up, you have to have some kind of narcissism in you. It doesn't always have to be bad, but you do have to know, like, hey, I'm better than a million other people where I deserve to be in this slot, right? So you have to have that in your mind somewhere. But for him to literally like bluff, lie, cheat, like his way to the top is beyond me. Like it's just embarrassing. And I sit back and I'll be like, you know what? We just had to take our whooping on this one. We have to learn from that last time so we don't have to go through this whooping again. Because I, for the life of me, try to wonder, figure out how he got there. But in my community, they call it black lash. Like this was the black lash from Obama. The wild child has been calling it the white lash because she said, no, we're the ones lashing out. That ain't y'all. But it is, I think that's what it was. I really do think that's what it was. It wasn't just him. He just lucked up and he was in the perfect spot at the perfect moment. And he was able to take advantage of it with the help of the media, with the help of Russia, with the help of all of these spineless Republicans. He was able to get to where he is. This time, he don't have the Russians like that because we're already looking out for that. He doesn't have, he kind of have the media, but not like he did before. So all of those things that help him get there is what's going to prevent him from getting there again. Right. He's delusional enough to think that he got himself there. He won't admit that Russia helped him get there. He won't admit that it was the media and all that free press that legitimized him and helped him get there. He literally thinks it was himself alone that got him to that position.
Right. Well, when you look at the fact that he was the president of the United States and now he's being exposed for the dipshit dupe that he is, it's almost like a bad movie. It's a joke. It's embarrassing. And it was
embarrassing then.
Yeah, it was, but a lot of people didn't realize it. I tell you what, Old Soul, we're going to take a break. We're going to talk a little more about this, and we got some other things to talk about. So hold on, and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Old Soul is with us today. Very opportune day after Donald Trump shit the bed in the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. Donald Trump made an absolute fool of himself. And I did a TikTok about it right after I saw what happened. And I started it out this way. I said, a racist idiot dipshit walks into the National Association of Black Journalists. What could go wrong? And of course, everything went wrong. But the reason I did it that way is kind of a joke, starting into a joke, because it reminded me something. And tell me if I'm onto something or on something with regards to this. Because the idea that Donald Trump, this blatant racist, would go into this black organization and do an interview. I make analogies and I make comparisons all the time. That's just how my head works. And as soon as I heard what happened in there, I thought of a sketch that Dave Chappelle did as kind of a comparative thing on the other side of things. Now, Dave Chappelle is hilarious. His show on TV was absolutely hilarious. He had a sketch where he played a blind black man.
Oh, the black white supremacist.
That was hilarious. And it struck me the same thing with Donald Trump going into this interview. It's just absurd. It's just absurd.
He really did think, I'm so serious. He thinks so little of other minorities' intelligence, like he really does. He thinks he is like light years ahead of all of us. So I have absolutely no doubt that he went in there thinking that he was just going to kill it. And then that's the part of sheltering him so much that he doesn't have to live in reality. I don't even think that was a wake-up call or a reality check for him, because when he went to that rally right after that, he was still hyped up. I think that he went into the panel hyped up. I was watching Roland Martin last night and he was talking about it. And so everybody was like, he shouldn't be invited. He doesn't deserve to be there. He's going to lie, this, that, and the third. And there's absolutely no way Donald Trump didn't know about that. But instead of him being able to like keep his cool and kind of like, for me, I would have been determined to keep
Right.
myself cool. And I would have been determined to like, I'm gonna kill it, but I'm gonna do it in like a nice, nasty type of way. And it's just like I would have been determined for these people to eat their words. I would have been determined to do that. But
Well,
he underestimated us, that's all.
Donald Trump is a delusional imbecile. And you're right. He went into that meeting thinking he was going to kill it because he's so talented and such a master of oratory. But I will
Yeah.
tell you this, Donald Trump, regardless of whether it was a black group or a white group or an Asian group, he thinks that's the case no matter where he goes and who he's talking to, whether he's going into court and wants to testify, or whether he's going into this meeting, or he's talking to a bunch of white supremacists. He really believes that he is the king of the hill, and anything that comes out of his mouth is the gospel directly from Jesus, and everybody's just going to fawn over him. You've heard him say it before. Everybody in this country loves me. Well, in his little group, maybe, but not the vast majority of the country or the world for that matter. He is that delusional. He thinks he's going to kill it every time. And I love that for him because there's the only thing I like better than seeing Donald Trump lose is when he gets blindsided and then loses. That's
Yeah.
even better for me.
But you know what else my people did that I was like, oh my God, that was the best thing y'all could have done. They laughed at his and the whole time
They
they
did.
were laughing at him. And you could see the look on his face when he would stop and pause and realize that, oh no, they're not laughing with you. They laughing at you because you're a clown and you're on that stage showing your butt. And I think that was throwing him off too, because they just kept laughing at the ridiculousness of that. It was funny to them. Like, is he for real? Like, do he expect us to believe that? I think that threw him off too. And there's like one part he kind of like paused when they were laughing, and the wild child was like, "Ooh," he realized they laughing at him. I was like, "Yeah, he don't like that," and he just kept unraveling because he could not take the embarrassment. Nobody was afraid of you. Nobody was taking you seriously. You were a joke. And I think he realized that even if he wouldn't admit it to himself, for that moment, he realized that he was a joke.
Well, he
And
was
I think that's part of the reason why he was 10 times worse at the rally after that.
right.
Um, his team, when they as soon as she said Project 2025, they like, yep, that's it, we got to go. Because it went so bad up until this point. Just imagine going down that Project 2025 road. It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good.
That interview was supposed to go an hour. I don't know how long it went because I didn't watch the whole thing, but the only way they were going to ask a bunch more questions, and then his own people pulled him off the stage,
Yeah.
probably because he was doing poorly and probably because they were going to talk about Project 2025. Here's the thing about Project 2025.
Mhm.
By the time we get to November, that will be the least of his problems because he's mounting new problems like this whole this whole interview that he did. I mean, you might say he had a bad night. He had a bad day doing this interview. So why aren't people saying, "Hey, you should maybe step aside"? He doesn't seem to be on top of things. He seems to be in trouble. And this is one of the things that's bothering him too. The only
Yeah.
fight he had against Biden really was his age and how he's slow and can't finish a sentence. Now he's the old
And the media was
motherfucker here.
complicit in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And they have to address it with him too, because now we're seeing where the cracks are and
Yeah.
he is not looking good. He's not looking like he's with it. He hasn't for a
Yeah.
long time, but they've got nobody to take away the attention. It should all be on Donald Trump because he's imploding.
Yeah. He's gotten rid of any realness around himself, because I can't imagine for him to have someone who genuinely cared about him and someone who can tell him no. Because the way Kamala Harris drug him last night, and as hyped as that crowd was, he shouldn't have been around Black people today. That just it just shouldn't have happened. It's just like, oh, you know what? We need to let him like seethe for a little bit, calm down before we put him on a stage with Black women. That's not going to go well. I think, and he doesn't know how to let things go. I think he was seething from last night. And when he got on that stage, he still had that venom in him. So it
Yeah.
made him probably worse than what he would have been if that would not have happened. All the videos like showing the Raptors, the crowds, the everything, Kamala Harris calling him out. It's just like that. I'm pretty sure it just shook him to his core. I don't think today was a good day for him to be talking to anybody, especially nobody with some melanin in their skin. But unfortunately, when you put people around you that just pucker up, you get yourself in a situation.
Well, yeah, and the thing about it is Kamala is very surgical with the things she says and does, and I appreciate it immensely. I appreciate people who know how to use words when it comes
Yeah,
to. My mom once told me when I was a very young man, my sister would do something, my brother would do something, and she comes to me and she says, "Mike, you got a very sharp tongue, and you should learn how to watch it." Now, clearly, I didn't learn anything because I still have it, but
I was just thinking that.
yeah, and I haven't changed much. But Kamala said, we're talking. We've got this whole debate issue in September that's scheduled that Donald Trump agreed to. Granted, he agreed to talk to Joe Biden, but Joe Biden's not there anymore. So now he's trying to back off of that. And then Kamala goes on stage and says, "Listen, you have a lot of things to say about me. Say it to my face." And that's a
Mhm.
direct challenge. That's a
Yeah,
taunt. And that is the worst thing to do with Donald Trump because he doesn't like to look weak and he has a hard time not accepting a challenge. She's baiting him into showing up. And he might very well show up if the pressure gets big enough
that's not
against
gonna be
his.
good.
No, it's not going to be good. It's against his better judgment. His people will tell him, do not show up. But there comes a point where Donald Trump just makes decisions and overrides all the people that are advising him. And there's nothing they can do. I kind of see at this point with his handlers and his staff, it's kind of like uh, a group, a trainer that has a fighter. Okay. And the fighter's pretty much done. He's not going to win
Yeah.
any more fights. But they keep propping him up just to make a few extra dollars, a couple of purses before it's all said and done. I really feel like that's what it is. They're propping him up. They know he's going to get knocked down, but they'll just prop him up again and get another payday. That's what it seems like.
Yeah, I think part of the what she did too is like his main talking point is immigration, immigration, immigration. And she exposed the fact that he killed the bipartisan border deal. There
Yeah.
were people who did not know that. And then when she said that and they looked it up, they found out. I know because one of the I was canvassing and it's like a couple people I give them my phone number, like, hey, call me, I'll talk to you. I'm here. Um, and he actually texted me and he was like, I just looked up that border deal. I said, did you read it? And he was just like, yeah, like he thought it was a good idea. And then I was like, yeah, he did that. It's on paper. You can actually read the legislated and know that there was nothing there because he was seeing on Fox News that what did he say? He said something about the reason that Congress didn't do it because they had so many loopholes in it and it was tied to other things. I don't know. I missed that segment, but that's what he thought in his mind. And I was trying to tell him that's not what it was. But when he saw that, he actually looked it up for himself and read it and then had to admit, like, yeah, he only did that so he can run off of it. So other people, they do know that. And I think that he counted on keeping his audience isolated from everything else. Like they're only going to watch Fox News and Fox News is going to tell them the truth. But
Right.
I think he underestimated the fact that people kind of did want to hear what she had to say. And a lot of people didn't know who she was. So they're like, hey, let's just see who she is. And then hearing what she said. And then on top of that, calling him out. And now he has his base like, hey, you need to go debate her because you look uh I almost called him a B word. You look like you ain't tough.
Like a pussy ass bitch. I talked
There
about
you
this in
go.
the. Let me ask you this, old soul. You're a woman. I had some woman write me. I haven't read it yet, but she said, "I know you have salty talk, but I think you should stop saying pussy ass bitch because that's demeaning to women." And I said, yeah, but I never use it with women. I use it with men. I mean, you got to understand the vernacular. Maybe I'm cooler and hipper. Bitch doesn't necessarily apply to a woman. And pussy ass bitch. I said, you have to understand where I got that term. I got that term from a woman, Chrissy Teigen. She called
Yeah.
Donald Trump a pussy ass bitch. And I said, I like that. And
Hmm.
that's why I use it. It has nothing. Do you feel demeaned when I use that word? I know it's uncomfortable for you because you don't swear, but you know me, and I swear all the time, and somehow you tolerate it.
These are my words that my grandmother taught me, and it worked to this day. And I tell this to the wild child all the time because that girl likes to fight. But I say, if it don't apply, let it fly. Is he talking to you? Did he call you that directly? Why are you offended? If you
Yeah.
feel offended, then you must see some kind of truth in what is being said about you.
Now,
If it don't
now,
apply, let it fly. That's it. That's all. You'll be surprised how much sleep you would get when you take that mentality.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like um, what you were talking about with the racism that's going to come flying out here. I've
Yeah.
told you about some of the emails and DMs I get. I read one yesterday from somebody who claims to be a Democrat, and it was just vicious. I mean, he threatened me, sort of. I don't
In your
care.
feelings much, sir?
No, I don't care. I think it's kind of funny.
Why was he so emotional?
I don't know, but
He was in his feelings hardcore. Like I've never I don't know. If somebody blocked me, I'd probably be like, oh damn, all right.
what
I can't see myself getting upset writing an email and going off. It kind of sounded like he was trying to you broke up with him or something. Like,
yeah, yeah. Well, it's funny, and he was on the show yesterday on that same live.
uh-huh.
Eric got blocked accidentally, actually
Oh,
blocked. So he sends me a DM and he says, Mike, I don't know why I got blocked. I said, that shit happens when you're on a live and all these people coming through. It gets chaotic. It happens.
yeah,
How about this, Eric? I just unblock you. He goes, okay. And that's all it
yeah,
took. This guy was muted and he was upset about it. And he said some horrible things to me. You just take it for what it's worth. It's not a big deal. I mean, at the same time, I got a young woman, a young mixed race woman, did a video, and she said, she was crying and she was thanking me for supporting Black women, and because they're not used to seeing old white guys do that. And I said, man, you don't have to thank me. You don't
yeah,
have to thank me. It has nothing to do with your color. We There's good versus evil. And if you're good, you're like me, I'm like you, that's all that fucking matters. And so I think people get too sensitive or too precious about the things they hear. I mean, if somebody listens to my show and they don't like the way I talk, I'm fine with it. Don't listen. There's other people that don't swear as much as I do. I'm just trying to be who I am. Now,
yeah.
there's a lot of people don't like who I am, and that's fine. I don't really care. I don't have a boss. I don't have all this other shit. I'm just going to do what I do, and it works all right for me. So fuck it.
Yeah, I think I know where that woman is coming from because my daughter and Zachary started dating and stuff. Like it was different then than it is now. Like it's just
Yeah,
different. But his father, like, and I don't have any boys, so I don't know like my nephews and stuff. They just like children to me. But I know my brother will handle them differently than, I would handle my daughter. But his Zachary's dad, anytime he was like picking up my daughter or they was going somewhere or doing something, he would always tell Zachary, like, hey, you don't come back here unless you have her with you. If
right.
something happened to her, something need to happen to you. Like you are responsible for her. So you can't go and drink too much to where you can't drive home because you need to be watching out for her. You need to be watching her glasses, making sure ain't nobody putting nothing in it. Like he would be, I'm saying it nicely, but his dad would be like in his face, straight up, I'm dead serious, right? And I would always be like, oh my God, like, thank you for looking after my daughter like that. And he was like, no, that's what you're supposed to do. He was like, I don't get extra points for telling him, look out for her. You're a mixed race couple when you go into a country bar. He was like, I am supposed to do that. He is supposed to look out for her. So don't give us points for doing what we're supposed to do. And I didn't look at it like that because I just never assumed that somebody would be trying to protect her like that. So it's different when you have like Black children because people really don't protect them like that. They look at them differently, less
Right.
vulnerable
Right.
than, small little white girls. They like, oh, they're so helpless. But when you're a small little black girl, it's like, oh, she can handle her own. So I wasn't used to somebody just looking out for her, talking for her, speaking up for her, and protecting her. I just wasn't used to that outside of my own family. So to see someone on the outside do it and just to say, I just got to thank you for that. But what you said is kind of like what Zach dad said, like, no, that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, I don't get extra credit for that. So I get
Right.
where she's coming from.
Right. I don't want extra credit for that. And I will say everything we've heard about your daughter, if I was a young man dating your daughter, I'm expecting her to protect me because I wouldn't. That girl don't need no protecting. She's fine.
They went to go and protest JD Vance when he was in Henderson. And we were sitting here because it was his dad, his girlfriend, and it was like me and my honey, right? And we're sitting there playing a game of Scrabble. We had some wine, we just chilling, listening to music. And I was like, all right, y'all know y'all responsible for her, right? And Zach dad looked at him and was like, Zachary, watch that. When he was like, wait, her? He was like, man, I don't know if I could do that. And so he looked at my daughter. She was like, it's all right. I'll watch out for her. Because the wild child, like, she's good and she does well, but her emotions, she's not as in control of them as she should be. And so we were just kind of like, yeah, y'all need to look out for her. And my daughter was like, it's okay, I got it. And then she looked at her, she was like, look, don't go out here acting crazy. Let's go. But
Yeah.
Zachary was kind of like intimidated a little bit, like, I don't know how to handle her. But my daughter got it together like that.
Yeah. I wouldn't worry about your daughter too much. She's
Oh, and guess
in
what?
control. What's that?
The wild child was absolutely shocked. Now, we all knew this, but she didn't know because this was like her first time going to like one of their rallies and protesting. They would not let them close to the venue. And they tried to be slick. They had on red, white, and blue shirts with the flag on the hat. Like they was dressed like Trump supporters. They looked like some fools, but that's how they dressed. They was trying to, trick their way to get up in there.
Yeah.
They would only let people in there who had like these stickers, and it was like a bunch of buses that pulled up. But if you wasn't on one of those buses or you didn't have that like little sticker, you couldn't even get close to the event. Like you had to be like down the street somewhere. And she was like, how could they do that? Those are people that they brought here for the rally. They don't show that on TV. And I was just like, that's how they do. It's like a smoke screen. It's like she was really upset because she thought she was gonna be in a rally shouting stuff in the middle of his speech or whatever. And she was so disappointed that she didn't get to talk trash to JD Vance.
And she was going to do it. Well, you know what?
She was gonna do it, but she couldn't even get close to the event. She was disappointed. She didn't understand that it's a setup. That's like what you see on television. That's not his rallies. They don't go like that. But it was like buses, cars, like people with those stickers. Those are the only people that got in there. Everybody else, you SOL.
You know what I get a kick out of JD Vance? He obviously was a horrible choice for vice president. They're digging up all kinds of crazy shit that he said, from having sex with a couch to, you know, when he was talking about women not having children and they shouldn't have as much power. Then he goes, tries to clean it up. And he says, well, we should pray for those women that don't have children, as if there are women that can't make the choice of not having children. He just fucks it up for himself all the time. And I keep hearing people saying, well, he's dragging down Donald Trump. Wait a minute. Donald Trump, JD Vance is a piece of shit. But Donald Trump has 34 felony convictions. He's been found liable for sexual assault. He's been sued multiple times. He owes $500 million fucking dollars, and JD's dragging him down? Please, motherfucker.
I think the JD Vance thing was twofold. One, it was a deal between Elon Musk and the guy that is over PayPal. Like, hey,
Peter
if you want us
Thiel.
to give you money, you need to put JD Vance on, which light bulb should have went off in Trump's head at that time, because JD Vance seemed like the type of person that'd get in that White House, do some little things on the side, 25th Amendment, you up out of here because we got things to do.
Yeah.
I don't know why that didn't dawn on Trump. I wouldn't trust him, but money is involved, so that's it. But I also think that there's a humiliation factor in there. Like getting into Trump's psychology, JD Vance was the one that went against him the hardest. And then he was the one that was like coping and kissing his butt the most. He
Right.
would say on stage, like, JD Vance is kissing my butt and he's doing this and he's doing that. He really wanted to bring that to the national stage and just humiliate him, which was okay to do when he was running against Biden. But he's not running against Biden right now. So now you are stuck with a bad decision. And are you going to say you made a mistake? I doubt that. I mean, it's possible, but I doubt it. So I think it was the money aspect in there, but I also think what really changed it was just that humiliation factor. Like, look how I can get them in line. Look how I can take them from this to that. I think that was played a part in it as well. And nobody else is picking up on that, so I could be wrong, but that's kind of how I saw it, because I
Well,
do think Trump is that evil.
well, you make a good point there. It's easy to manipulate Donald Trump with money and adulation and that sort of stuff. I hadn't thought about that until you just said that. Donald Trump's 78 years old. He's not healthy
Mhm.
mentally or physically. He could
Yeah,
go to jail. So if Donald Trump becomes president and something happens to him, then JD Vance is the president, and the
yeah,
$45 million a month that Elon Musk and Peter Thiel paid puts
yeah.
one of their guys at the top of the heap.
Hmm.
That may have been the game they were trying to play, because Donald Trump's not going to last another 4 years. One way or another, he's going down. He's either going to implode, he's going to die, he's going to become um, uh, uh, somehow
You can
incapacitated or in jail.
you can look at his hands when he talks, like his hands are kind of like gray and ashen, and it's just like
And they're
your
tiny.
blood is, yeah, like his blood is not circulating the way it's supposed to. You see like his ear, the way that it was like bleeding like that, that's not normal.
Right.
um I do think that there is health issues there, which is the main reason why we will not see those medical records. I think that's part of it, and I do think when you put somebody like Elon Musk, and I can't think,
Peter
Teal, I think
Thiel.
that's his
Peter
name. Yeah,
Thiel,
you
yeah.
put Teal in there. And then, I ain't trying to say nothing, but his son is greedy too. So it's just kind of like, I know that they were just using Trump to get inside of the White House. And
Yeah.
then whatever nefarious plans they came up with, that's what they were going to do after that. But I would have been surprised if Trump got into office in the last 6 months. I would really be surprised. I think that they were conspiring. And even there was like this interview with Trump and Vance, and they were like sitting next to each other. And that's when JD Vance was faking that laugh. The way that he looked at Trump was like absolute disgust on his face. You could
Yeah.
just tell. And I'm
Yeah.
sitting there like, that man is thinking, wait till we get in that White House. Like, I'm going to do this to get to where I need to be. There's a difference between a loyalist and a sycophant and an opportunist. And
Yeah.
I think that JD Vance is an opportunist. And I think he was just trying to play his role. And he had his little billionaire buddies to back him up. But they have plans for once they get in there. So for me, it's not as much as Trump getting in there as the people around him, especially when you got snakes like that all through your grass.
Right.
And it's so weird that Trump is not picking up on that. Like, you are being used and you are not picking up on it. It's insane to me. Like, he ain't got no kind of street smarts about himself.
No, he doesn't. And that's part of the nature of a narcissist. I told
Yeah.
you my father was a narcissist, and when I learned how easily manipulated he was, he just
Mm-hmm.
needs that attention. He needs that
Yeah.
adulation. He needs that attaboy. And if you give it to them, you can get whatever you want. I've told the
Mm-hmm.
story. I remember being a little kid. Dad, can I have a mini bike? And he said, No, you're not getting a mini bike. And then when I finally figured out how to deal with him, I
Mm-hmm.
made him feel like this would be important and this would get great attention and would make people think you have more money and you're a great guy, you're a great salesman and all that stuff. 6 months
Yeah.
after that, I had a motocross bike and a racing bike, because he said, you ought to race too, because that'd be cool. So
Yeah.
it isn't hard to manipulate these people once you understand it. Putin understands it. Kim Jong-un understands it.
Yeah.
Orban understands it. Elon Musk understands, and Peter
Yep.
Thiel, and anybody with money understands. He's just Donald Trump is a pawn.
Yeah.
Uh, JD Vance is a pawn. The true puppet masters are the wealthy people, and they
Mm-hmm.
found a perfect dupe in Donald Trump and JD Vance.
Yeah. if you look at JD Vance's relationship with Theo, it's no doubt in my mind that those two teamed up. It's like, hey, you're gonna have to flatter him, kiss his butt, whatever. It's not gonna just stroke his ego. Just stroke it. And then, whatever behind the scenes plans that they was making, you can't tell me that Trump will win the presidency and do more than 6 months.
Right.
I can see the way that Vance looks at him. Um, he was kind of like the keys to the kingdom.
Right.
Once he opens the door, the kingdom is open. We don't need him to, open the door no more. We got it from here. In my mind, that's what the plan was. And that's an even bigger reason to keep him out, because Trump is low IQ, but these people actually know how to think, plot, and plan. And I just think that they're manipulating and using him. I don't feel bad for him, but I think that's what's going on with that whole situation. But I'm kind of confident they ain't gonna get in there now.
No, I don't think so either. And not to start a conspiracy theory, but it's something to consider given all that we know. Peter Thiel is a billionaire from Silicon Valley. But Peter Thiel is also, oddly enough, gay, and he's out about it. And JD Vance and he were tight in this situation.
Yep.
Now my question is, when it comes to having sex with a couch, is a couch simply a euphemism for something else? I don't know.
Have you seen the pictures of JD Vance?
No.
There's pictures of him. I'll send them to you, where he is a little flamboyant in these pictures. And then we also have the text messages between him and his transgender friend. And so this is the crowd that he's around, and this is the crowd that he's used to. You know what I mean? Like, his transgender friend is sick, and he is bringing soup and taking care of his friend, which a friend should do. But there's no way that you go from having transgender friends, you're around Theo, and he is out loud and proud, and you are in certain pictures looking a certain type of way. And then you could turn around and just say, yeah, the transgenderism, I don't like gay people, and all this other crap that he's spewing. I don't think he feels that way at all. I think his wife and his children is just a beard for him personally. But I do think other things was going on that we just don't know of yet. And I do think that's why Theo and Elon Musk kind of like tapped him to be the heir apparent once Trump gets them in there.
Well, and the thing about it is when I say something like this, some people will say, well, don't denigrate gay people, LGBTQ or transgender people. And that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing.
I wouldn't want to associate with them either. Oh, mind it. I don't blame the LGBTQ. Like, we ain't claiming that.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But my point is like Lindsey Graham and whoever else.
Yeah.
I have particular disdain for people who may be part of the LGBT community, deny it, and then that's not enough. They attack the very community they might come from. That to me is despicable. That's what I don't like. It'd be like, well, that's not a good example. I was going to say it's like me saying old white men suck, but I do say that. So, so that's not a good example.
It's a good point, though. When you look at the RNC, here they are shutting down apps.
Yeah.
And then you have to look at like Max Slap, the Moms of Liberty chick. You know what I mean? When you look at them, there is something about themselves that they don't like. They're uncomfortable. Maybe even they hate that part of themselves. And so that they turn it outward. You know what I mean? And I think that's where a lot of that comes from with them. And a lot of the men with the women, and they want them to be trad wives and all of this stuff. That's because they're raised in a certain way where you have to suppress hormones, urges. You're supposed to suppress that, but they're still feeling it. So it's easy to like objectify women because they are the reason that you feel this particular way. So you take your frustrations out on them. And I think that's the same way when you're closeted. They are out and they are happy and they're living their lives, but you can't. So you're taking that part of yourself and you are just throwing it at other people. It's cruel, it's sick, it's pathetic because we're in 2024. And if you are around people or you're associated with a political party that does not accept you for who you are, then maybe your butt needs to switch political parties. Nobody say you have to be a Republican. Yeah, they're easier to manipulate and grift and you'll get more money. But when it comes to your sanity, it ain't worth it. You get
It's,
more money doing good for people than you do when you're trying to do all this other crap. It's weird. They are
it,
weird.
integrity is a good thing, and more people should
Yeah.
have it. I was thinking to myself, what if I went to my wife and said, I want you to be a trad wife? I'll tell you what would happen. I'd wake up tomorrow morning with a pillow on my face. That's what would happen. I mean, the whole thing is absolutely ridiculous. And that's,
Your wife better than me. Because I'd be like, hey, honey, do you want a drink?
yeah.
Are you hungry? I got you. Just sit there. I got you.
Well,
I wouldn't recommend you eat that food or drink out of that cup.
she's very clean and she wants to keep it neat, you know. She doesn't want to throw up or vomit or anything around. She just wants to make it clean and easy. Um, you know, that's the one thing you learn early. You marry a woman and she only has to say a few words to get you in line. And those words are, you have to sleep sometime. I get
Over
it.
here, over
Yeah.
here, it's like sooner or later you're gonna have to eat something.
Yeah.
I would have you scared to eat, sleep, go to the bathroom. You would be like, "What am I? What's going on?"
I said, honey, you don't have to hit me over the head with a sledgehammer. Literally, don't hit me over the head with a sledgehammer. But you know, the one thing that we're all waiting to find out is who Kamala's going to pick as a vice presidential
Yeah,
nominee. And for me, I don't even care because I think either no matter what she picks, it's going to be a good choice. She's going to make the right choice for her, whoever that is. Um,
I
and who,
had my heart set. I really did on Tim Walz. That man knows how to message. He
yeah,
knows how
he
to take
does.
a complex situation, and it's good because he, was a retired teacher, right?
Right.
And he knows how to way to just break it down to where it's very easy to understand, interpret, and digest that information. He was so good at that. And then I looked up his record and I thought to myself, how the heck did this man do that with a 1 seat majority?
Right.
Like, I was just like, wow. The fact, I mean, the free school lunches alone, we know how much Republicans hate to feed children. It's just like, I just started reading this laundry list of things that he did. And I was just like, that's the man who knows how to get stuff done. He knows how to maneuver. He knows how to deal with these people. You know what I mean? Especially if it's a small majority. And then that's the person that I would love to be like the last person in the room with Kamala is this man right here.
Yeah.
And then what I like about him is he's just being his authentic self. Like he had a rally and he was talking to people and he just, had his hat on like he just woke up an hour ago. He
Yeah.
just seemed so normal, so personable. I had my heart set on him. I really, really did. But I don't think it's going to be him. Since they're going to Pennsylvania, we already know who that's going to be.
I don't know if that's true. Yeah, maybe just trying to throw us. I don't know who it's going to be. Shapiro's a good choice too. He's the governor of Pennsylvania, and he'd be a
But
good
look what it'll
choice.
do to the electoral map. If she went with Shapiro, I think that would be the reason alone that he wanted out. Other than his cadence, he's a very good speaker.
But yeah, but you know, somebody made a point recently that the whole idea of getting a vice president from a state you need isn't really a thing anymore. I mean, you
Mm-hmm.
think of Barack Obama. Barack Obama got um,
Oh,
Biden.
Biden.
He didn't need
Yeah,
to. He didn't need to win Delaware. Biden
yeah,
offered a lot of experience that Obama didn't have. That's why he got him. Same thing with Biden and Kamala Harris. They didn't need Kamala
yeah,
Harris to win California, but she
yeah,
brought some things. She was a black woman. He promised to do that. She was sharp. She was smart. She was fiery,
yeah.
and he believed that she could also serve as president if need be. And he's proved that point now by supporting her in the next election. I don't know. They could at some points. I think they will pick him because he's good TV.
Yeah. And
He's good.
he came up with the best thing of all time is just calling these people weird. It's so simple and it's so true. And I'm just like, this man has a relationship with like young folks. He do because he's just like, look, these people just weird. You ain't got to make it complicated. You ain't got to do none of that stuff. They just weird. And then I also think that he would appeal more to like rural areas I
Yeah.
think those people would just be eating out the palm of his hand. And it's
Yeah.
just like, I think that, I guess you're right, that yin to your yang. So whatever I'm lacking, this person can make up for it. And I do think he would be so beneficial for her. I really do. I just like him. I'm like a Tim Walt stan at this point. My daughter be like, okay, you like him, shut up. Every time he watches television, I gotta watch him on television.
Well,
It's crazy. And you can see he don't crave attention. He's just like, hey, I'm just gonna help people out and do what I gotta do. I'm a fan of his. I'm a stan. I can admit it.
and I saw him in an interview, and it was funny about being vice president. And I don't know if it was
Mhm.
Fox or ORN or whoever it was, but this woman was listing off all his accomplishments in
Yeah,
Minnesota, legalizing marijuana, free lunch for the kids. And she was taking it a negative route. She said, all these things you've done, are you just going to be a target for the Republicans because you're this crazy liberal? And he looks at her and he goes, "Oh yeah, what a monster feeding kids so they can do better in school."
yeah. I like him. I really do think, and then he also is, as personable as he is, she has to sooner or later kind of like allow that person to go out and do the attacking for her. And I'm just like, he would be perfect. Like he would be attacking you, you couldn't even be mad at him.
Right.
And in my mind, I could see him against JD Vance in a debate. Get out of here.
Oh, yeah, it would
It's
be
over.
trouble. Well, the other person they're talking about is Mark Kelly. And Mark
Yeah.
Kelly is a formidable candidate for vice president. He's in a border state. He's an
Mhm.
astronaut. He's a senator. He's got
He
all
got a
those
twin
things.
brother. That's cool too.
Yeah, yeah. We could do some crazy. He could be traveling two places at once. But my problem with Mark Kelly is um, he doesn't seem as personable. He doesn't seem to be able to interact, and that's kind of where Kamala is. She can
Yeah.
do that interpersonal communications, and she can take people to task. The other thing is, I don't know anything about. Well, I know some about Tim Walz because he's my governor, but a
Hmm.
lot of it has to do with the vetting too.
Yeah.
What is somebody, the Republicans are going to dig down and find something minuscule on somebody and try to exploit it. Now, Shapiro is Jewish and he has a stance on Israel.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problems with his stance on Israel, but that's something that could be exploited. And we know it's a fairly important issue in this race. So I don't know if that comes into play or not. I don't know if having him be the vice president wins them Pennsylvania. I don't know that they need him to win Pennsylvania. I think Kamala can do that on himself. I think Shapiro's a fine candidate. He has one advantage over Mark Kelly and Tim Walz. He's younger.
Yeah.
Now, Tim Walz and Mark Kelly are both 60 years old or pretty close
Hmm.
to it. Uh, Josh Shapiro's 51. Now, if youth is of importance, this is what I love. Kamala's going to be 60. Tim
Hmm.
Walz is going to be 60. And everybody's going, "Oh, it's great to see the younger people in there." I go, "You fucking right. I'm 64. I'm just a couple of years ahead of them. I could have been in high school with those motherfuckers." But it's, I just don't think whoever she picks is really going to be a problem. She is just a force to be reckoned with. And I don't
Yeah.
think you're going to stop that momentum.
I think that when it comes to Shapiro, I do think they will try to, I don't know, try to flip and turn the fact that he's Jewish, but it won't work. And the reason that that won't work is because they've already worn it out. This is not like a new attack. You've been
Right.
saying this so much. You've been saying it about her husband. You got Trump out here saying, if you are Jewish and you vote for Kamala, you're crazy. You know what I mean? So you take a message and you just wear it out. So it doesn't have the same value that it would have if you wouldn't have been talking about this the whole time. You know
Well,
what I
you
mean? Like you take that information and you hold on to it and then you use it as ammo when you need to. You don't just throw it out nilly willy. And at this point, nobody takes you seriously. It's just like saying the election is a hoax, it's a hoax, it's a hoax.
Right.
At first, when he was saying, people were like up in arms about it, like stop saying. And it's like now it's like, yeah, that's just Trump. He's just lying again. It doesn't carry the same weight that it used to. And I don't think these people know how to be humble for a single second. They don't know how to be strategic with their attacks, and they don't know how to make it land. They're
Right.
just throwing stuff out there, but we're just used to them saying whatever. And it's just kind of like words have meaning, but the way that they abuse it, it does take away the meaning from it. It's not the same.
You heard what Donald Trump said about Kamala, didn't you? He
Which
said
one? He said a lot of stuff about her.
he said that she hates the Jewish people. And then somebody reminded him that, well, she's married to a Jewish man.
Yeah.
And then you know what he said then? Oh yeah, but he's a crappy Jew. What the fuck does that mean? He's a crappy Jew. I mean, this is just pulling shit out of your ass, hoping that something lands. It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
I was gonna,
He's trying to stir up chaos and
yeah,
it's not working.
no,
If
it's
you
not working.
are a Christian, you can't vote for a Democrat. If you're Catholic, you can't vote for a Democrat. If you're Jewish, you can't vote for, like, he is really trying to divide and conquer. You know what I mean? Like, Black people, you don't need to like Kamala because her mom was Indian. Yeah, her dad was Black, but her mom was Indian and she never pretended to be Black. You know, it's like he is trying so hard to stir up chaos,
Yeah,
but it
she's
doesn't
not a
hit the
real
same because
black
he's,
person.
yeah, it's like we know what biracial is. We know what an interracial couple is.
Yeah.
It's just it's insane. It's insulting to a way, but we're kind of used to it. I think we were jaw dropped when we saw JD Vance give an interview. I think that was what's that heifer name? Megan Kelly, I think that's her name.
Yeah.
And he was just like, yeah, I love my wife. She's such a good mom. She's such a good wife. You know, she's not white, but I love my wife. It's like, do you hear yourself?
Did you hear? He's not good with messaging either. You know what else he said? He said, I'd love to have my wife come up here, but if I brought my wife up here, I'd have to sleep on the couch. Ah, come on. That's a little too soon. Too
Maybe
soon.
maybe try to, you know, sometimes if you make fun of yourself, it kind of like people stop taking it seriously because it's a joke now. He doesn't know how to do that. He doesn't have any charisma or anything about himself. It's
No.
just weird when he do it. It's just like I think maybe when they were trying to put him as Trump's VP so that they could get in the White House, it never dawned on them like, are people gonna like this guy? Like, you have to get to the White House first, so you have to put somebody there that people actually like. Why did you put him there? And then he beefing with Jennifer Aniston. I think this woman got like what 40 something million followers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
American sweetheart, like,
Yeah. Well,
boy, get it together.
the thing about it is people up to this point have always looked at having a female, even a black female president or candidate as kind of a negative.
Yeah,
I think the opposite is true right now. And it's because
yeah,
of Donald Trump. It's a war
yeah.
against women. It's a war against people of color. It's a war against
Mhm.
LGBTQ people. And I think people say this is just desserts. This is exactly the person we need to fight against this bullshit. And since he's against LGBTQ, I wouldn't be opposed to Pete being the VP either. He would be an excellent choice.
He is amazing. I don't know why they keep inviting him on Fox News. It's like, do y'all like to be embarrassed? This close to the election, this who you gonna have on. But one thing, okay, so I was like kind of feeling some type of way when I'm doing my canvassing,
Yeah.
because what I do is I try to get them to like look up stats and statistics on their own instead of just like telling them. And it's just like, hey, you could check this out yourself. Or it's like pitting them up against the corner because they'll keep moving the goalposts until they have nowhere to go. And I was like, am I doing it right? And then I saw him on Fox News using the exact same technique that I use. And I was like, yep, I'm doing it right. If he is on Fox doing it, I can do it with these low information voters. Like, I can do it. He is amazing the way that he do it. I don't think mine is that smooth, but he's really, really good. I
Yeah.
like watching him.
He is really good. And if he's not a VP candidate, then he should be something even bigger and more out
Yeah,
front
I don't think that
in the
with
administration.
with Republicans, they didn't realize they thought that they could attack Kamala, and I'm pretty sure Pete Buttigieg, because I've seen some horrible things that they say about him online as well. They underestimated the fact that women would be protective. Like we're going to protect our own. So even
Right.
though you say something racial towards her, he thinks that white women are going to be okay with that. And they're not, because they're looking like, why are you attacking a woman? Why are you saying this about a woman? Why are you being sexist towards her? Why are you being racist towards her?
Right.
So what it does is you just take Black women and white women and just like put us together. And now we mad at you. Trying to pit Black women against white women, as soon as like they had the white women for Kamala Harris Zoom meeting, that should have let them know, we need to change course. Because they over here raising billions of dollars for her and they
Right.
have her back.
Right.
I don't know why they keep attacking her and thinking that white women is just going to stand back and be like, oh yeah, we cool with that. It's like not the 1950s. I don't get that part. Like we are women, we're going to rally around each other and protect each other. I don't know. He's just being slow.
Well, and I'm curious as to what you think. We had the Black women do a Zoom call, Black men do a Zoom call, white women do a Zoom call. They got a lot of people and they raised a lot of money. Then the white men did it, and it was kind of it took a shit. It was 1,100 people. They got 35,000. But then they
Yeah.
promoted the hell of it, promoted the hell out of it, white dudes for Harris. And they had another Zoom call and it went fucking crazy. 180,000 people show up. They raised more
Yeah.
than $4 million. Did that surprise you at all?
No, not really. I see like Jack, he is in love with Jack Black. Like that's his favorite actor. I think if he ever saw Jack Black in person, he'd probably pass out. But I was seeing like Jack Black, Robert De Niro, all of these other like men who are just like, no, we're not supposed to sit here and take this.
Yeah.
So I was like, when they said, hey, we didn't organize it right the first time, we're going to come back around and do it the second time. I'm like, okay, they got something to prove this time. So it's going to hit on something.
Yeah.
So I wasn't expecting them to fail the second time. I don't know if you've seen the one with Nancy Pelosi, like single cat women for Harris. So all these women got on the call with their cats and stuff. It was just kind of like Nancy Pelosi been getting on my nerves lately, and I do think she need to go somewhere and sit down somewhere. But that was kind of epic.
Yeah, it absolutely was. I mean, I think we all have a lot to be excited about, and we need to keep the momentum going. And I don't think that's going to be a problem. People aren't getting tired of Kamala.
Especially Trump is just going to get worse and
Yeah.
worse and worse. I'm not going to sit here and say like I'm bulletproof because I've heard some of this stuff. I watched that video, like that screenshot I took, like I watched that with the wild child and we was both crying. It was like, I can't believe they are saying this. I can't believe it's on YouTube, and I can't believe that children can access this. Like it'll hit you and it'll hurt. And then you just kind of say, okay, I know what's coming. And you just kind of have to get it together and keep going. Like you can't just sit there and keep crying about it because that's not going to change anything. Like I'm sitting here crying and I could be talking to somebody about voting. That's not going to help my cause.
Yeah.
So, but it's going to get worse. And I just hope that everybody braces themselves for that. And I was going to say before I forget, so you know how before, and we just found this out in the conference call that I had. So previously Republicans were like, don't vote by mail. That's cheating. That's bad, right? And so now they're changing their message. And the reason that they're changing their message is because they want Republican MAGA men or whatever, they want to get their wives mail-in ballot in the mail, and they want to fill it out for their wives and send it back. Or I seen somebody post something like when your wife gets her mail-in ballot, like you're supposed to stand over her and watch her fill that ballot out.
Wow.
So what they've come together and they have said to each other, which is baffles my brain, that your wife can tell you anything. If you go vote in person, you don't know who she's voting for when she goes into that booth. So you need to start getting your mail-in ballots. Make sure your wives and girlfriends get their mail-in ballots. You could either fill it out for them and send it back, or you need to stand over them and watch them fill it out and make sure they are voting for Donald Trump.
That sounds a little paranoid to me.
It is, and it's kind of nefarious because I feel so bad because I know some of these women, especially the men who are like, yeah, we're all for this. We're doing this. The situation that the women are in, my advice has been to don't put yourself in any danger. You know how he is. I'm pretty sure there's other ways. Maybe get your mail-in ballot mailed to your brother's house, your mama's house, whatever. I don't know how that works. I know here for like battered women, we have like safe houses that you can use their address. Like if you're trying to get together a plan to leave that relationship, your mail can go there, that type of stuff. That way he's not accidentally stumbling across a credit card or something that you applied for.
Right.
But I'm not in certain areas and I don't know how easy that would be for other women to do. But I've been thinking of any ideas. If anybody got ideas, let me know in the comment section. And next week, I can read your comment on the Zoom meeting because I don't really know how to tell these women to do that and be safe about it.
Right.
I don't know. And I think sometimes with some of the mail-in ballots, like, I don't know if their address has to match your ID that the ballot is sent in. I don't know. We just found this out like 2 days ago.
Okay.
But that's what they're doing right now. And I'm trying to brainstorm with everybody else and figure out how these women can vote freely in the way that they want to, but at the same time, not open themselves up to being harmed either. You know what I mean?
Right.
So I don't know how that's going to work, but heads up, that's what they're doing right now. So when you see Republican men telling them like, yeah, we need to get mail-in ballots, all of a sudden out of the blue, that's the reason why they're saying it, because they want to force the women to vote for Trump.
Wow. Well, we're going to wrap things up. I was just thinking about this. So you talking about going out canvassing?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to imagine Old Soul knocking on a door and having a MAGA guy answer the door. God bless his soul, because he doesn't know what's about to fucking hit him. Next thing you know, he's going to be over at your house having dinner with Uncle Cleo and your mom and your TT, and they're either going to brainwash him or kick his ass. I don't know which, but they won't know what they're getting into. You're kind of a secret weapon out there.
I have been criticized from my family. Everybody's like, I give my phone number out too much. But I'm like, what's the harm in giving somebody my phone number? If they get out of pocket, I can just block them and move on. But I did make one guy cry, and I didn't mean to do it on purpose. So his wife, his wife's mother, and his daughter, they have like breast cancer, and his daughter is like in remission, but she's young, like in her 30s. And he was talking about this and that, and I told him, when you vote for Donald Trump and Republicans, you're voting for Project 2025. Agenda 47 is the same thing, just a little bit more childlike about it.
Right.
And he didn't understand. So I was telling him that in Project 2025, women cannot have chemotherapy when they have cancer because that could affect your fertility down the line. And he was like, nope, that's not going to happen, blah, blah, blah. He looked it up and he was just kind of like, trying to hold it in, but he couldn't. And I was like, it's hard for you to imagine putting your daughter in that situation, but that's exactly what you're doing if you vote for these people. Like, they're lying to you. They're not telling you the truth. And to top it off, they're not even trying to hide it. They're putting it in writing, in paper, and this is what they're going to do. And then they'll tell you something different. So how do you feel putting your wife and your daughter in harm's way for a racist? And I was like, the only thing that I can think of is your racism is more important than your wife and your daughter. And that's what it's going to be if you vote for them. And he was trying to hold it in, but he started crying. And I was like, I didn't mean to make you cry. I was just trying to make you aware.
Well, I'm sold. I'm sold. I'm not voting for Trump. That'd be a surprise to a lot of folks. Well, Old Soul, thanks for coming on the show today. I appreciate it. It's always enlightening. It's always entertaining. And I always learn a lot. And I appreciate you coming on today. Keep us informed with all the, you got a lot of shit going on. You're in prisons, you're going to Texas, you're going to Colorado. Now you're canvassing. Wow. I wish I had that motivation and that energy.
Trump is not getting in the White House if I got anything to do with it. That ain't happening.
And I got to tell you,
ideas, if you have a way how to let women vote safely, I'm not from those areas, so I don't know. But any ideas, I'll take it to the Zoom call and make that suggestion.
That sounds great. Well, Old Soul, thank you. For those of you listening, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.